Alright, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. It's Mr. Wahlberg, 2.3, subtracting rational numbers. Pretty much the same rules that we had for integers. We already talked about this with adding. It says use integer rules for subtracting. For fractions, always find a common denominator. For decimals, you should know to line up the decimal. Here are some types of problems that we did with integers. I hope you know how to do these. You obviously do have a calculator now that you're allowed to use. That does help things, but this is definitely types of problems that I expect you to know at this point. Okay, let's look at some examples of what we'll be looking at here. Obviously, these are fractions here, so we have to put it in a common denominator. It already is. But whenever you have a mixed number that is a negative, I highly recommend put it into an improper fraction. Negative 4 1/7, that's going to become 4 times 7 plus 1 is negative 29 over 7. And we're going to subtract still the negative 6/7. Remember, we use still the same rules we do with integers. Anytime we're subtracting a negative, we're going to turn that into an addition problem. It becomes a whole lot easier doing that. The 7s come straight across, the common denominator, and I basically now, back to my integers, like I talked about in the last slide, negative 29 plus 6. You should still know how to do this. I take the negative 29, I add the 6 to that, that gets me back to a negative 23. I got to turn that into a mixed number. It'd be a negative, don't forget your negative, 3. And I have 2 left over, negative 3 and 2/7. That would be an example of how to do subtracting fractions, which really isn't any different than what we did with addition. Just find the common denominator, and in this case, subtract instead of add. Alright, here's an example of a decimal. I got 12.8. We're subtracting 21.6. Remember, you always have to line up the decimal points. In this case, if you remember back to integers, we learned that we can add its opposite. Now, you are allowed, of course, to use a calculator at this point, but I should go through the proper steps. Adding the opposite would be 12.8. I'd be adding a negative 21.6. If you remember how to do this, we take the absolute value rule, which basically gets me 21.6 is the bigger absolute value. Subtract the 12.8. 16 is 8. Obviously reduce this down to 10, and that would be 8, so 8.8. Now go back, and what was the bigger sign? The bigger sign was the negative, so my final answer is a negative 8.8. So that is the proper steps to do that. Of course, you're allowed to use a calculator at this point, and I'm sure you would on a problem like that. But that is how you subtract rational numbers in that case. Just a prime example of a situation where, an everyday type of problem. You have $101.62 in your savings account. You withdraw $45.41 to pay your cell phone bill. Do you have enough money left to buy a video game that costs $49.99? Again, we have to remember to line up decimals. I'm going to do, sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 1, 21, got to borrow 9, and I'm left to $56.21. So I have enough money left to be able to buy that wonderful, glorious video game. These are just prime examples of things that we're going to look at more tomorrow, but hopefully this makes sense to you. Alright, last thing here. I'd like you to try these 4 practice problems. Just subtraction, obviously, like we've been doing here on this video. 3 of them are fractions, and 1 is a decimal. I'd like you to practice these and have 4 of these answers for tomorrow in class. We'll probably be turning these in on Schoology. Good luck, and have a good night.